afternoon, and very happy to have you here, sir. Start with, if we look at NEP, is recommending that competency-based learning and assessment needs to be implemented. It also emphasizes that learning needs to be absolutely for all children, needs to be that the mastery has to be achieved in skills and knowledge and not the erstwhile what has been going on in terms of having memorization. It should be truly accomplished. Also, it highlights, the NEP highlights that in early grades, in key stages, student assessment is important to identify where are the gaps, what students are finding difficult to learn, what can be done about it. And therefore, it is hoped that schools and systems will plan interventions to ensure that the gaps are made up and more effective learning takes place before students reach the critical and high-stake examinations of the board exams, right? Towards this, CBSE has already begun it's created a program of set of assessments called SAFAL. The CBSE also has piloted in grade 5 and grade 8 this assessment, which is low stake, which is basically formative in nature. We have with us Dr. Emmanuel, that he is, as you heard, he is the academic director at Central Board of Secondary Examination. He has been pivotal in creating and developing online applications and digital payment system for all examinations being conducted by CBSE. As a OSD, he has OSD for medical examination. Dr. Joseph has taken for MBBS and BDS examination, basically eligibility tests, NEET, in India and abroad, all places. Dr. Emmanuel has a master's degree in commerce and has his doctoral work in financial management. Welcome, sir. Great to have you here for this.
Thank you.
Would like to begin asking you by saying, given the fact that NEP suggests that these early low-stake assessments will help improve student learning. So this is when we talk about assessment for learning. And how do you see that the data emanating from such assessments like SAFAL, which you have conducted for grade 5 and 8, and you hope to conduct it continuously for all schools in future, how will you use this data to enhance and support student learning? Please.
Thank you, Jayshree ma'am, for saying those good words about me, and thank you, CSF, for inviting me for this session. I have a bad throat, please bear with me. After this engaging session, this conversation about assessment and examination is going to be a very boring exercise. So please, our apologies. So let us pick up from the previous session. Nilesh was narrating story to the children. He was fully engaging with the children, and in between he was asking questions. And children did not feel any sort of discomfort out of that. They happily responding to the questions. So in the days to come, our exam should also transform to this line. It should be an engaging activity. It should be very, very happy exercise for the children. That should be our aim. And SAFAL, Structured Assessment for Analyzing Learning, this is a new initiative of the CBSE based on the recommendation of the new National Education Policy. in the national education policy, there is a strong recommendation for key stage assessment. And as an answer to the key stage assessment, CBSE has introduced SAFAL. It is still in piloting stage. We have to scale it up, but an initiation has been done. The objective of SAFAL is to measure the learning level of the child at each level of learning, particularly at early years. We are talking about competency-based education and assessment. And if we implement this assessment at the board exam level, there is no scope for any remediation. After the board examination, you will be segregating the children, they will be moving out of the system. So there is no scope given by the board examination for taking remedial action at the right time. So SAFAL aims to identify the learning level of the children. If there is any learning gap, that should be identified at the early years. And if there is giftedness, that also needs to be identified. So SAFAL is not going to be an examination that will test the rote memorized learning done by the children. This is going to be an assessment that will analyze various skills, aptitude, and abilities of the children through application-oriented and higher-order thinking skill questions. There will be baseline study through SAFAL to understand the basic conceptual understanding of the learner. If that is there, then the aim is to understand the level of learning as well as the aptitude, skill set, and ability of the learner. And through this exercise, all the stakeholders will get timely feedback. The teachers will get feedback, school management will get feedback, the parents will get feedback, the learner himself will get feedback about the learning level and aptitude and skill set. And SAFAL is going to be a low-stake examination. We have already decided to not to use SAFAL result for promotion. There is a complete disconnect between SAFAL outcome as well as promotion of the child to the next class. So the promotion will again happen with the school-based examination. But SAFAL will be used to give feedback to the school system and to this and to all the stakeholders about the learning level and the learning aptitude of the learner. And various scientific tools will be used for analyzing the result. CSF is also a partner of implementing SAFAL with the CBSE. The learning framework has been developed, and quality items are being developed to test various skill set and abilities of the learner. And the first pilot test happened in the year 2022, wherein almost 4 lakh children participated in the SAFAL test. And SAFAL is happening on a digital platform. And wherever there is problem for digital connectivity, we are also developing an alternative mechanism for testing the children on a manual platform. That will also be there. But our aim will be to have a test on digital platform, wherein children can go to the school and simultaneously enter into the computer lab and give the test without being afraid of giving an examination. It should be a joyful activity, and through the joyful exercise, the learning level should be assessed. For class 3, we are aiming to introduce game-based assessment. So CDAC is helping CBSE in developing this kind of testing platform. And class 5 and class 8 platforms are ready. And this has been tested among the 2,000 schools in 332 districts all across the country, and 11 foreign countries also. So almost 50 schools from foreign countries also participated in the SAFAL pilot testing. So this is going to be a competency-based assessment that will be happening in a joyful environment, an unthreatening manner, and aims to provide feedback to the stakeholders and school system as a whole.
Absolutely. No, as I hear you about all stakeholders getting feedback. So one is you talked about parents, schools, and teachers. The schools can definitely take some measure basis the findings from the data coming out of grade 3 or 5 so that that improvement is carried out. Including the system gets feedback in terms of resource provisioning, in terms of kind of interventions that needs to be made. So your feedback will be at a system level, at the parental level, at the school level, right? You also talked about digital platform, particularly basis the competencies. How do you see the future of this in terms of the competency-based assessment? Where do you believe, what will be the advantages, what will it lead to in coming few years?
So usage of technology in education has become a priority for everyone. And it has its advantages also. Its reach is maximum. So because of usage of technology, we are able to reach out to the last child and last school in the CBSE system. In the competency-based digital assessment, the main advantage is it is very, very cost effective. With very less cost, you can implement this kind of an assessment without burdening the children or the parents. Whereas in a manual assessment, it involves a lot of cost. So we have implemented this SAFAL with less than 5 crore rupees investment. Whereas for implementing a manual-based testing itself, you need around 100 crores for printing, distribution, invigilation, and everything. And secondly, this testing can happen anytime, anywhere. Only thing is, our schools need to have minimum digital infrastructure. So for that, CBSE has already revised its affiliation bylaws, mandating minimum digital facility in every school. From 2008 onwards, this provision was there, but we never aggressively followed it up and implemented it. But after seeing the advantages of SAFAL and the ease of doing business through digital platform, now we have advised all the affiliated schools, including the government schools, to have minimum digital infrastructure in every school. This, in a way, will facilitate implementing SAFAL, and at the same time, this will promote digital literacy among the learners. When I have visited many schools at a different part of the country, children were very happily going and doing item piloting of SAFAL test. They were very happy. Their only complaint was questions are very easy. So this time purposefully we kept the difficulty level at a very low level to get more attraction of children and to more acceptance among the schools and children. But they are saying it's a cakewalk. So we need to develop a mechanism wherein higher order thinking skill questions, middle level thinking skills questions, as well as lower order thinking skill question, all should have a proper mix, and it should really give a challenge to the challenging students, those who like challenges. And at the same time, we should understand the learning level. Now, this SAFAL assessment is on MCQ mode, but gradually we are thinking of upgrading it on both writing
Short
also.
questions and
Yeah,
short
descriptive as well as MCQ based. 1 or 2 questions can be given on descriptive basis so that the thinking level, the presentation level, all those skills can also be assessed.
But given what you said about the implementation, I also see that when you have a competency-based assessment, it would certainly help the students, particularly students now in the CBSE schools. There is 25% of students were expected to be from a poverty or a social background, that they would be brought in. Would it not increase the equity in terms of learning? Also the kind of assessment that we are talking about. One of my questions would be for a digital assessment that in government schools, in many of those, that may not be possible. So would there be also a paper-based assessment that can be easily seen? And it could be still, your multiple choice questions.
Yeah. So there is, we are already working on to provide a manual assessment platform also. But again, for implementing manual assessment, there is huge resources required. So we are developing a mechanism wherein the schools will be able to download a question paper and implement assessment at school level. But we will not be able to supervise those kind of
No, but
assessment.
that's school
But it will,
assessment.
yeah,
At the school level.
but no school or no child will be deprived
Right.
from participating in the SAFAL assessment. And wherever digital infrastructure is not available, for those children, a manual mechanism will be provided.
Also, there are, the state officials as well as the examination boards from the states. Now that you implemented and piloted this, what would be your recommendation? What would be your suggestions in terms of the advantages and how to go about it? Would you be able to share some of those thoughts?
Yeah, it is, first of all, we should de-link it from high-stake examination. It is a must. And we need to trust in our system, the more we make it high stake, maximum misuse will also happen. So, a culture of competency-based education and assessment should be brought into the system. The learning should be joyful, assessment should also be joyful. Up to class 8, there is already no pass-fail criteria, and with the amendment to the RTE, now, fail is attached to the pass-fail is attached to the assessment at the year-end examination. But still, if we implement SAFAL kind of assessment in the school system, that will leverage promotion of learning. That will also promote joyful learning. The crux of SAFAL kind of assessment is framing of questions. Good quality questions can only bring out the best from every child. So framing question is a very big exercise, and our teachers are not competent enough to frame good quality questions. This is the biggest challenge which we faced while implementing SAFAL. Even for board examination, if you implement more application-oriented questions, in the Bloom's taxonomy, at the 5th level or 6th level questions, if we implement, our children struggle because they never practiced it. They have never been given an opportunity to think in a different manner to find answer to a particular type of question. So, SAFAL kind of an assessment will be a platform to develop our children to think differently and also think critically and innovatively.
In terms of holding schools accountable to ensure that whatever the findings are they implementing it? Because just now in the first session you heard that needle hadn't moved. Assessment results in 2005 or 2018 seem the same. Yeah. In some ways, how do we make sure that with this data coming out, and as you rightly said, we should not create a gaming culture, right? But also, in some ways, holding schools accountable that in grade 5, if this was the learning outcome, the same batch when it says come to grade 8, is there any difference? Is there any improvement? What kind of system, digital or otherwise, that you are proposing in few years' time to put it together?
With the SAFAL and the holistic progress card, you can measure the learning level of children from early years up to class 12. Right. Every level you can have the data of the learning level of children. SAFAL particularly, you can compare grade 3 result with grade 5 and grade 5 with the grade 8. And again, this grade 8 result with your board exam result of class 10 and class 12. Everything can be connected and interlinked, and data can be beautifully used for making right intervention for promotion of learning, as well as making intervention to bring quality in the school education. Suppose on a particular subject, all the children are failing in or scoring less in the SAFAL. The problem may not be with the learner. It could be with the teacher also. So that kind of insight SAFAL can provide, SAFAL data analysis can provide to the system. If we use it fruitfully, it can bring wonders to the system and right feedback to the stakeholders at the right time.
Thank you so much. I think it was really wonderful to hear your thoughts, particularly saying assessment must be joyful, assessment data must be utilized to help students learn more rather than penalize them. And I think that those two things I take away with which warms my heart. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah.